over to this. The demand of water in South Africa is set to be much greater than what we have, but the Water and Sanitation Department says we're not in a crisis. This week, some areas in Johannesburg experienced reduced water supply due to infrastructure maintenance. To speak about this, I'm joined by Water and Sanitation Minister Senzo Mchunu. Thank you so much for your time, Minister. We appreciate it. I see you quite busy out in Guyana, also trying to figure out what's going on there. But let's just start off with the overall dissatisfaction with the Department of Water and Sanitation, with the lack of water that many residents face, not just here in Gauteng, but also in Gqeberha and in KwaZulu-Natal.
Yes, thank you very much to you and your listeners. Yes, we spoke about challenges in Gauteng. Mainly it had to do with rainwater maintenance program. And we have explained this, and they have explained this on several occasions. And it mainly was drawing raw water from the valve and putting it into the system that they had to fix and upgrade. And they had 54 hours to fix this thing, or within which to fix the system. And we don't have an official report yet, but from what conversations on the side, it's a program that has gone very well. But of course, they need to fill up reservoirs. They have to connect with the system in Johannesburg, of Johannesburg Water, and we hope that that should be resolved in good time. But we spoke about Gqeberha, and they were also getting a report tomorrow to find out how far things are. But it was more a question of having emergency or interim measures while we are dealing with a short to medium term intervention with regard to Noordgedag Dam, pipeline, which of course we are going to be dealing with it and ensuring that we spoke to the board to say this is our priority, and what our office is doing at the moment, for which we need to get a report very soon, is to have a discussion with Gqeberha municipality on one hand and talk to Amatola Water Board on the other, compare prices, compare everything, and then we give it to one of them so that they fast track the phase 3 of Noordgedag, so that we protect Gqeberha from getting into crisis of water. They have water at the moment, restricted, but as I explained last time, it was the western part of the city that was affected with interim measures for water. The same applies to Durban. They were doing a fix-up in one of their pumps, which pumps to some of the areas in the west of the city. So those are the main things that we talked about last time.
Okay, speak to us about, you've just used the word to avoid a crisis, but you have come out strongly to say that South Africa is not in a water crisis. Could you explain to South Africans why you would say that we are not in a crisis, given what we are seeing across the country in many provinces? If you see what's happened in Hammanskraal, if you see what's happening in parts of Gauteng where people are without water, many would say that if you do not have water, you are in a crisis. Why, as the Minister of Water and Sanitation, do you believe that this is not a crisis?
The issue is this: we have a high demand of water in the country and the water that we have, but we then need to up the stakes in terms of managing water that we have, such that we are able to run South Africa and be stable as far as water, if our management gets to the level that we should get. Now, the actual thing that we are explaining is that we don't have a crisis that say in Gauteng there's no water, in provinces there's no water. That would be a period of intense, if you look at the meaning of crisis, intense difficulty. At the moment we have difficulties, but we have to manage those difficulties and challenges that we have. And that is the difference that we are talking about. Because if we manage our water properly, like ensuring that we close these leaks that make us lose 40 to 45% of water, if we ensure that we kind of apply stricter measures while we allow everybody to access water, but within an environment of tight management, that will always avert any crisis, and we do maintain that we don't have a crisis in the country on average. I don't deny that there may be, like in this case that we are referring to, in Hammanskraal is not the whole of Hammanskraal. There is a problem. It is timber, and we are dealing with that, as you know. So we shouldn't create an impression that it's all of Hammanskraal. Even in Malota-Pofung, now that in the few days that are going to come, we are going to have a council. We've had a meeting, a very successful meeting with the council that was there, and then we need to continue with our relations with the current council. So we don't have a crisis. We do have difficulties, particularly in certain pockets of the country, and we don't deny that that's not a difficulty. People do have difficulty of water. That's why we're all over making sure that we even intervene on those difficulties.
It's interesting you say that people must maintain water, and many would argue that some people don't even have water to maintain. Some people have no water. You were just in Giyani. Billions of rands have been spent on a water project that have still left thousands of people in those villages without water. What is your plan to fix this? And I'm not just speaking about Giyani and Limpopo, but there are other areas in South Africa where people don't even know what it's like to open up a tap and have running water. Yes,
we do have those challenges, and we are dealing with them. We don't deny that, including the examples that you are saying. But I'm saying, if we up the stakes in management, because if I could make the example of Guyana as well, it shouldn't be that the people of Guyana shouldn't have water as it is happening at the moment. I was there until 7 o'clock last night. Had we managed our projects properly, even if we manage the current ones properly, like groundwater and even tankered water, it would alleviate the difficulties that people have. People have difficulties there, I don't deny that. But it's more of management. I'm trying to say to people, let's not have an anxiety that because in a particular area there's no water in South Africa at all, no water in any river, it's dry. It's a question of us having had witnesses in managing water and making sure that everybody, not because we have to get water from elsewhere, the resource is there, but how it is managed, including projects that must get water to people on time. Guyana is something that should have happened in 2019 already. We're in 2021. And therefore, I'm saying we have to perfect our management. We have to improve drastically. We have to worry day and night about the fact that there are people who don't have water and who are worried, and we have debt. We owe them. We know in terms of
Minister,
the Constitution.
sorry to interject.
Yes.
It's interesting that you say that you know, we are not dry, and it's not like the dams are dry, and that's why we're not in a crisis. However, many would argue that the crisis that we are facing has a lot to do with the fact that there is a maintenance problem, then there is an infrastructure problem, there is a problem with the fact that there's not enough maintenance that is done. Why is that not being done? So you're saying there's no crisis. You're saying there's no crisis because our dams are full. It's not like there's going to be day zero approaching. But people would say whether it's not day zero, it's got to do with the fact that you don't know how to maintain your systems. You're using an example of Giyani. You're using an example of Giyani, but you're saying, you know, work should have been done. But so why was it not done? Why must we constantly wait for new ministers to come in to sort out the problem? It's unacceptable. It's a violation of a basic human right not to have water.
We are getting very close. We are getting closer with you because we are now shifting from actually a question of a crisis from where I stand, where you would say, you go to dams, they are 4%, you go to rivers, no water, and so on. That would be intense difficult. But I can't answer the question of why things didn't get done in some past. I have to deal with the present since getting appointed. And I'm saying I'm taking full responsibility of the status quo. In other words, where the scarcity of water, the communities that have no water at all, have never tasted water, as you say, that is our responsibility now. And we can't shake it. We can't blame anyone. We just have to accept that it is time we fix up everything and anything that needs to be fixed up. And we are equal to the task, and we are going to do it. That's why we're spending, I haven't been able to go to the office since my appointment. I think I've been able to spend 2 hours only in the office. Not because I'm just driving. I'm actually engaging like we did yesterday. Yesterday, I'm happy, for instance, using Giyani once more. We resolved the issue of 4 kilometers between Nandoni and where pipes have ended up now, because there was a problem of accessing land there, which is a problem that has been there for some time. We're able to talk to the eNCA, Amakosi there, and we've been able, so they will have access, the implementing agent and contractors are going to have access on Monday, start fixing those 4 kilometers down towards Giyani. We've been able to repackage a number of things, including working hours with the contractors on the ground. And that is what we need to do because of the difficulties that we have at the moment, to make sure that people get water as soon as possible.
Sure.
We have to be hands-on and so on. And I'm happy with what is happening. Yes, thank you.
Minister, let's just quickly listen to some residents here in Gauteng who have expressed their dissatisfaction with not having access to water. Let's just have a listen to what they had to say.
And this is unacceptable. We are appealing to all the residents to come here and close this area off. We will close the whole of Robertsham off. We will close freeways off. And we will make sure that we will bring this area to a standstill. We will bring this area to a standstill for the inefficiency and incompetence of everybody involved with the situation. People's lives are not, we are being breached. A constitutional right is being breached with no water. And this is unacceptable. So people need to take accountable from Wednesday, Thursday. This is the first day that people are taking it serious. We haven't had councillors here that's come here on Wednesday and Thursday and demanding that we get the water. It's only today, because the residents have come out, that people have decided to come here and decided to listen to the people.
Minister, I would say that is a crisis.
Pardon?
I would say that is a crisis. That, to me, sounds like a crisis. Residents are extremely unhappy. They do not have water.
They don't have water, not because there's no water whatsoever, like I'm saying. But at the moment, we just need to intervene to find out what is the problem, because, well, from rainwater, they would supply reservoirs, and Johannesburg have their own system. There could be a problem that we have to intervene on. Those people that are talking here are correct in saying they are experiencing a violation of their rights. They are experiencing this difficulty, and we're with them. And therefore, now that we know, we are going to have to phone both Rainwater and Johannesburg Water to find out and to intervene on the spot, because this is a sensitive matter. This is an emotional matter. What I'm trying to separate is this is not a problem that we are experiencing there because there's no water elsewhere, even on the source. It's a problem somewhere between the source and for the people to access water, which is man-made and woman-made, and we have to intervene and resolve that particular problem.
Okay, Minister, let's separate the two, okay, because I hear that you are really trying to emphasize the fact that the country is not dry, there is water, but the access to water is the problem here. So can you separate the two for us so that South Africans can understand? Is it a matter of maintenance that is lacking and a problem? Is it a matter of aging infrastructure that's causing this problem where people don't have access to water? How serious is the problem when it comes to maintenance and infrastructure of the water system?
The issue of maintenance, if you have to measure it from the point of leaks, is up to 40 to 45%, causing loss of water at that percentage. And that's quite a big problem. And municipalities over time, together with the Department of Water, may have lowered their vigilance and alertness to the aging infrastructure and therefore timeously resolve that problem. And the department having to follow every grant to every city and making sure that the grant, part of it goes to aging maintenance of pipes and replacement in some cases, because there is no doubt there has to be replacement on a big kind of scale, and therefore that I agree with you. There's a problem of aging infrastructure in some cases. I've gone to 5 provinces and I met many mayors. Not a single one didn't mention those that are water authorities. That did not mention we have aging infrastructure. So it's as if mayors can't replace, they have to complain about aging infrastructure and not take money that is allocated to them, part of it called RPIC, and then divide it into services and also make sure that this time around, we are going to have to intervene up to the level of saying, okay, this money that is allocated to you, part of it must go and replace aging pipes. Part of it must go to current services, ensuring that we continue to have water. So it is a man-made and a woman-made problem, not because dams are dry, not because they were experiencing heavy drought. It's a problem of maintenance, as you say, in part. But it's also a problem of management. That's part of management, which has gone down quite substantially. I agree with that.
Okay, how long is it going to take to sort out the maintenance problem? You're saying it's not aging infrastructure. You're saying the dams aren't dry. You're saying there isn't a crisis of a dry South Africa. So let's say it's maintenance. How long is it going to take to fix this? When is this going to be fixed?
The councillors that are getting in here have to be greeted with the reality of aging infrastructure, and therefore having to use whatever resource that is there. Right from this, they are getting into office in the middle of a financial year. Use the money that you are going to find there to start a program of replacing or upgrading or renewing your infrastructure underground. I mean, we had a meeting with Mangaung, and they were telling us, they gave us dots, it was almost red all over, but we don't have a similar program of replacing this red with green in terms of replacement of pipes. That is what the new councils, that's what the new mayors, that's our view to them, that go and take all the money on water infrastructure, sanitation infrastructure, water services. You look at your infrastructure, take a percentage, fix that. And in some of the cases, like in Swane, for instance, we're going to have to intervene heavy stuff there because it has been a case of many years from 2011 repeating the same, and it's not happening. And therefore, we have to get in and intervene directly in some cases. But of course, where mayors have this issue of understanding that we have this, and now, not tomorrow, it is now, when the day after they get sworn in, they must take those chains out and fold their arms and get into the issue of infrastructure. And what? Then they will be our friends, and then they will be our stakeholder, and then we'll move into the ground and resolve this problem.
So, Minister, I don't want to misconstrue what you're saying, but you're saying then we'll be friends. So are you worried about the current management and skill set in these municipalities to sort out the maintenance issue when it comes to water? Does that concern you?
It concerns me deeply. Otherwise, I shouldn't be running around the way we are doing, engaging in the manner that we are doing and intervening. I wouldn't be doing that when mayors and councils are actually fulfilling their obligations as far as water is concerned, with money there, not with money not there, money there, and so on. So I'm not just worried, I'm very worried, very worried.
Okay, can you quickly give us an update on when the Giyani water project will be completed? And how much more money is going to be needed?
Well, let me. I'm happy with the work that we did in one day yesterday, but I so wish that we would have done it a few years ago. Finally, the time frame that engineers and our implementing agent there, Lepelle, have told us about Giyani. Giyani itself is September next year, when they will commission everything there and water getting into homes. But we have said, look, we've already spent 4 years on that project, and we need to roll that thing back. How do we do that? And we're then discussing ways and means, including one, instead of breaking on the 15th of December, we want them to break on the 20th of December. Instead of coming back on the 10th of January, we want them to come on the 5th of January. And they will be looking at working even on Saturdays. And they are going to be ordering bulk material so that they don't complain in January that we've run out of material and therefore we have to wait for shops to open and all of that. Because we want them to be on the ground, something just close to 24/7, because of the difficulties that people have been exposed to over time. But we went on site, we saw people putting pipes underground and working very hard and moving. And I'm happy that even the glitches that were there in terms of accessing part of land, both on the side of Nandoni and down towards Giyani, those problems are going to. I have appointed Deputy Minister Makatsi to collaborate with the MEC there, and they must just sit on the project of Giyani so that from now onwards nothing derails. And I will be going there from time to time to monitor as they progress. It's something that we've done in the Vaal as well, where we put Deputy Minister Mahlobo with the MSC Maile of Gauteng, just to ensure that they are physically there. And as soon as anything happens, they are on the spot to resolve whatever happens. That's how we're going to have to work going forward.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Vaal River because we still don't know what's going on there. Unfortunately, Minister, I've run out of time, but I just have to ask you, we actually posed a question on Twitter to say if people had one question for you, what would it be? And one of the questions that has stood out for me says, Do you feel any shame that many people still walk kilometers to get fresh water? And I think this can also be linked to another final question, that you have many people struggling to access water. Many people open up their taps, they don't have water. How are you going to solve this problem? How are you going to make sure that this problem is solved as quickly as possible?
Let me make one example, if I could, or maybe to avoid making examples because they limit you to particular areas. One, we're going to have to activate the sector, and we've already started. One is making sure that our boards work on all 6 cylinders. Those people are responsible for supplying bulk water throughout the country in their areas of responsibility. We're on them. We're working. 2, water authorities, we are going to have to win their brain and their hearts to make sure that let us have one agenda. And that one agenda is to supply water in our area of responsibility. 3, if we are not satisfied with your work, we use Section 63 to get in and intervene directly and do it ourselves, because we have a section, substantial section, that deals with infrastructure within the department, and we will get there directly, like we are going to be doing. We're already doing this. So in the Val, we are going to do that in one of the districts in KZN. We are going to do that here in Tshwane, because we want to be to talk less and do more, and get water coming out to people out there. And we know it's our responsibility. Access to water, there's no debate there. It's their constitutional right. And people who talk strongly, and in some cases with anger and urgency, we agree with them 100%. And we want just to assure them that we feel exactly the pain that they are feeling. We feel the urgency that they are feeling, the sense of urgency. We are with them. We will meet on the ground in the supply of water.
Okay, Minister, I've completely run out of time and my producer's not going to be happy, but I just have to quickly read this part here. I think I've actually lost it now.
Yes.
But there was an estimate or a prediction that in the next 10 years, there's going to be a huge problem with access to running water because of what, here it is, I found it. South Africa, a naturally water scarce country and the 30th driest in the world, is already feeling the pressure. It's predicted that the country's water demand will outstrip supply by 2030. That's fewer than 10 years away. So this report finds that South Africa is the 30th driest in the world. So that's surely something that the department has to consider and plan ahead, because this is less than 10 years away.
We are acutely aware of those projections, and they predict a situation of intense difficulty, which could be a crisis. That's why we are on getting into phase 3. 3 weeks ago, I had a meeting with Minister Mosenene of Lesotho to get into phase 3, into phase 2 now of Lesotho Highlands water project, so that we augment right now. And that project is due to deliver water by at least 2027. It's done on an urgent basis. I'm in KZN in a few weeks, 2 or so weeks, because of 2 major projects that we have to start there in anticipation that. In addition to that, we are looking at better management, as I'm saying, of our dams and so on, just to make sure that we conserve as much water as possible in anticipation of that. But we're going to be looking elsewhere. I must tell you that on Thursday, I was in Eswatini, in Babane, with my counterparts, both from Mozambique and Eswatini. We were dealing with water of Nkomati River and Usutu River, just making sure that how can we have the latest technology, the latest of methods to make sure that in that part of the region, we raise the security of water in anticipation of what could happen in 10 years. But we start now and we do things. We agreed, we signed an agreement. These are the kind of interventions that we are doing all over the country just to make sure. And we're going to have to look at more than just the Lesotho Highlands Water Project. We're going to look at elsewhere in the north, just to say to the neighboring countries, what is it that we can do? Maybe up to Congo, who knows, up to Congo River. But we are urgently looking at those matters as a result of those projections. We're wide awake, and we need to work with everybody. And the people who are supplying us with research information, we are urging towards working closer with them, so that not only is it must be a projection on the crisis, but it must also be a project of what needs to be done, and not tomorrow, but now, so that by the time that we get there. I was with the ambassador of Denmark a few days ago. They deal with, they get all their water, more than 90% of their water from underground. We are going to have to learn and maximize in terms of extracting water from underground, exactly in anticipation of that. Some of the municipalities are dealing with desalination, like Port Alfred and so on. So we are up to ensuring that every possible source we must have access to, so that we secure South Africa and South Africans as far as water is concerned, for a number of uses, including agriculture and business, so that nobody complains about us and saying we were wide asleep when crises were looming. It's not going to be like that.
Sure. Thank you so much for your time, Minister. We do appreciate it, and thanks for making yourself available to explain to South Africans what the real problem is here. As you heard the Minister saying, it's not that South Africa is dry. It's got to do with maintenance problems, and hopefully we'll see implementation of these grand projects and plans to make sure that every South African has access to the basic human rights, which is water.